Hello, HyperFast Nation. Welcome to this episode of the HyperFast Wealth Show. Coming at you again on Zoom during the coronavirus quarantine. I am down in the secondary studio in the Florida house. Keri is doing another show in our main shooting location down here. But we are pressing forward, moving on today's episode. We have a real estate investor who started out just 2 years ago. Started off as a side hustle. We'll get into that and how he quickly started doing enough flips to quit his day job and build it into something in under 2 years that will be about 24 deals a year. Welcome to the show, Chris Clark. All right, welcome to the show, Chris. We are excited to have you on. Before we dive into all the awesome stuff you're doing with investments in the DC area, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about your background, how you got started in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan, thanks for having me on. Big fan of you and Keri, and obviously on the team as well. So excited to join you today. A little bit of background about myself. So graduated college with a finance and accounting degree, and started working for a public accounting firm. Hated it, and so then I switched and began working for the largest REIT in the Washington, D.C. area in their finance department. And I always knew I wanted to start my own business. Wasn't really sure what that business would be or how to do it. As I started getting some more experience with the REIT, I realized that, the majority of super wealthy individuals are investing in real estate in some capacity or another. And so, I kind of realized that's where I wanted to be. And so once I realized real estate was going to be my vehicle, I started doing some research, talking to other successful investors, and I came across a national real estate educational program. Went through their coaching curriculum and started my own company. This is all back in 2017. Then I joined the coaching program and started my company. And then since then, just kind of used, what I learned and applied it to our local market, and was able to hit the ground running pretty quickly.
How many deals are you on pace to do this year?
This year, so my goal was to purchase 24 deals. Right now I have 11 under active redevelopment, with 3 more under contract to purchase. I was on track for that 24 number. Not looking quite as likely at the moment due to current circumstances, kind of just trying to see exactly what's going on, not halting the buying by any means, but definitely being a little more cautious. And, I already have 3 deals under contract that I'm working on getting closed, and finding the lenders has been more challenging recently. So the goal was 24. We'll see if we get there, but might come up a little bit short this year.
Yeah, the guys who either got cash or know how to find it are going to have a huge advantage right now, and that's going to be the key to growth, right? Is
absolutely
finding that cash or investors, right?
Right.
They're scared, and we haven't seen huge price changes in the DC market. If anything, we're seeing more buyer demand and less stuff coming on the market, but investors are a little bit more cautious for sure. So getting
Right.
the cash to fund these deals, I think, is going to be a challenge for investors. Where do you normally get the capital for your deals in the past? So people out there know, different ways that they can get capital for flips, because you're doing mostly flips, right?
Yeah, all flips right now. So of the 11 active ones, 10 are single family homes, and then 1 is a 4-unit condo development that we're in the early stages of. And so as far as the financing goes, always use commercial financing in some capacity. So whether it's commercial financing coming from a bank or a hard money lender, they're in the first position, and they're typically lending about 80 to 90% of the purchase price plus 100% of the renovation cost. And then in terms of the other 10 to 20% of equity, I am going out and raising that from, going to meetups and meeting other real estate investors, going to other professional networking events. So, other business owners around the DC area, friends and family. And then of course, once you get your foot in the door somewhat and people see that you're having success, it starts getting a lot easier, and people start reaching out to you asking if you have opportunities available.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's really that compound effect, right? The first time you go out and fund a good deal, it might take a little bit of more work than you thought, but then the next time it gets a little easier, and then you can start to like expand your capacity. And this investor had a good experience with you, talks to that investor, and all of a sudden, a year later, you go from being able to do 2-3 deals maybe most at a time to like double digits, like you're doing.
Right. Yeah, and I think I think a lot of newer investors might not even know that that's an option. So, they're sitting on the sidelines thinking, okay, I got to have 20% for a down payment plus, all my monthly interest carrying costs. I got to save my money for, 2 years to even buy my first deal. But once you learn about how, the majority of investors are raising money to cover all their costs, and then you learn kind of how to, pitch it to people and, tell them all about all the benefits and the security in real estate. Like you said, it's a compounding effect.
What was it like your first deal? So a lot of people out there maybe haven't done a deal yet, or they're thinking about doing their first one. Describe your first deal to us.
Yeah, so the first one, so I mentioned I went through my coaching program and started my own company. So started the coaching program and my company in December 2017 and started actively looking for deals probably around March 2018. So, 4 months of some pretty serious learning and just getting my company set up. And then it wasn't, so from March until July 2018 was when I bought my first deal. So it took me about, 4 months of pretty, actively looking for that deal. And, I put a couple under contract, but once my due diligence started, realized it wasn't as good of a deal as I thought it was, and took a lot of willpower to let those deals go. You always want your first deal so badly, but you definitely don't want to overextend yourself, especially on your first one. And so my first deal actually came from a realtor referral. It's an agent that I knew. She was actually a family friend growing up. And so once I was going into the real estate industry, reached out to her, set up a meeting, and just let her know, hey, if you ever come across any distressed properties, I'm looking to buy. Kind of told her what my criteria was. It wasn't more than a few weeks later, another agent in her office had a listing coming up, a pocket listing, and I was able to get access to it before it ever hit the market and put it under contract before anyone else even knew about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of the best deals really never make it to the market. So
Right.
You got to find out how to find those deals before other people do, whether it's networking, like you've been doing, or prospecting, knocking on doors, marketing. Like you got to, if you want the best deals, most of the time you got to get them before everyone knows about it.
Right. Yeah, the off-market deals are definitely going to be the best deals. Not to say there aren't deals, on the MLS, but they're not going to be as heavily discounted.
What did the numbers look like on your first deal? What was the purchase price? How'd you finance it?
Okay.
Construction costs, all that. You remember that?
Yeah, let me rack my brain for a minute. So it was a single family home in Alexandria. And the purchase price, I want to say it was high twos, 290, maybe 295. It was a 2-level Rambler, and the construction cost was 75. The financing, I used a bank financing actually for this one, commercial bank financing. So got the lower interest rate at, I think at the time it was 6%. So 6% in the point. Got the 20% equity from an investor I met at a meetup, and then it took about 5 months to renovate it, and then ultimately resold it for, I think it was $499. So not a home run by any means, but definitely a good first deal, a good clean first deal to put some money in your pocket and keep going.
Yeah, so you're probably close to six figures on that, right? Or maybe a little under.
It was definitely under six figures. Yeah, in the 60 to 70 range, if I remember correctly.
For what, six months of work, basically?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so probably a little bit better pay than.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was
yeah.
so I was actually part-time investing at that point.
Were you?
I still had my full-time job at the REIT. And so, I was checking in on the house on weekends and stopping by before work. And yeah, that's the profit I made from that deal was, it wasn't more, but it was pretty damn close to what my annual salary was at my full-time job.
Yeah, and only 6 months. You spent
Right.
half a year, weekends. A lot of people start off in investing or in sales as a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
When did you finally make the jump and quit your job?
Yeah, so when I started, I kind of told myself I'd give myself 2 years of doing it part-time, and then at that point I would see if this was something sustainable, something I could keep doing for the future, and support myself from it. I think I lasted about 9 or 10 months. I had done, after my first deal, I did 2 or 3 more, and once they sold, and I kind of took a look at my bank account, and I was like, all right, I've finished 3 in the past, in the past 12 months. I have 2 more already going on. This looks like something I can probably, keep doing and even grow off of in the next 12 months. Like, let's just cut the ties and go all in. And at that point, that's when I went from, so I did 4 deals when I was working part-time, or I'm sorry, when I was working full-time doing investing part-time. And then literally as soon as I quit my job and just fully immersed myself, pretty much doubled my business immediately and went from 4 deals to 11 deals the next year.
Wow. What was your biggest deal you did that year?
So that one was a single family row house in DC in the Petworth neighborhood. A little bit of a higher price point. I think the purchase was high 4s. Similar, did the bank financing as well at 6% in the point. The rehab cost was more substantial. It was a large single family row house, total gut job. If anyone's familiar with the DC market, you'll know most of those jobs are total guts, digging out the basement, doing some underpinning. That one took about 7 or 8 months and resold it for $875 range.
Damn.
So it was a pretty good deal, and that was the first deal I did in DC, which kind of introduced me to the DC market.
Yeah, and that's something not all investors have to deal with, but we certainly do. Is the differences in jurisdictions, and
right.
When you get into DC, it's a whole nother set of rules and regulations that you got to navigate compared to Northern Virginia.
Right. I also feel like there's no such thing as a cosmetic renovation around here. It's either like what you guys are doing, knocking down and building new buildings, or you're totally gutting the existing structure. I don't see many deals where it's a little bit of kitchen and bathrooms and paint work.
Yeah, and I think really you kind of, those cosmetic flips, just for people that are really good at different parts of the process, either finding the deal, raising the capital, the construction, the sales at the end. For people that are good at one or more of those parts of the process, they're just not going to be interested in that cosmetic flip.
Right.
So I think you either find the good deal and wholesale it right away and make a quick but smaller profit, but you didn't have to close on it and put your money in or investor money in. You didn't have to incur closing costs, right? You either go down that route if you're really good, I think, or
Right.
you do something like you're doing or like what we're doing to make it worth your time.
Exactly. Right.
And that's so what is the typical flip for you? Like how much, are you increasing the square footage? Are you doing complete, reno on the inside? Like what's the typical size of the construction job?
Yeah. So, like I said, 11 or 10 of the 11 are all single family row homes in DC, which are all pretty similar. I rarely add square footage. A lot of the times we're just coming in, keeping the existing structure, but taking it down all the way to the bones. Total gut jobs, digging out the basements. And so, DC row houses, the ones I've been in anyways, range anywhere from about 1,200 square feet is the smallest I've seen. Then all the way up to 3,000 is pretty large. So obviously those scopes and those construction budgets look quite a bit different. That could range on the smaller side anywhere from 80 grand all the way up to, north of 300.
Yeah, and ours, for us that would be a lighter project.
Right.
We're typically now trying to increase density, but and you're doing that too now on your 4-unit, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and how'd you find that project, and what are you doing on that one?
So that project, that was actually a deal on the MLS. So I think most investors will tell you they don't even look at the MLS. They think it's a waste of time. I disagree. I think, it's free leads essentially. And if, you have some extra time, or I've actually now outsourced the task. But I mean, why not take a look and analyze deals and make some offers? So anyways, that was an MLS deal. And I went into it thinking it would just be a single family row home. It's a beautiful location down in Capitol Hill in DC, near tons of other new development. And, while I was there checking out with my contractor, we saw, condo conversions all over the place. They were putting up a 325 unit building behind us, another 44 unit complex on the other side of the street. So we were like, all right, what is the zoning here? So we checked out the zoning, and it was zoned MU4, which, if you're familiar in DC, that's kind of the holy grail of zoning.
Yeah, we got a lot of those.
Yeah, so it's you could do mixed use, commercial or residential condos, and as far as I know, either the agent didn't understand what MU4 zoning was, because they just put it on the residential portion of the MLS. They didn't put it on the commercial side or anything. So I think a lot of people looking for those condo conversion deals just missed it, and as a single family home, wasn't quite the home run, but as a condo conversion deal, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, did the agent not know to market it that way, or?
That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they weren't aware of what the zoning was and what that means exactly and how valuable it actually could be.
Yeah, as a agent, this is when you find the good deals in the MLS. If they don't really market it as its highest and best use, then
Exactly right.
I think that can happen. Or if they do a bad job of marketing, they overprice it. Have you ever gotten a good deal in the MLS just because you negotiated and got more off than you probably thought you would have?
Yes, I mean, several times, so I bought several properties off the MLS, and I would say 0 of those have come on the first offer. So, it's getting to making your offer quickly. A lot of times they'll reject it right off the bat, but just implementing a follow-up system. So I'll, follow up maybe once a week or every other week, depending on how far off we were. But a lot of times the agent 3-4 months later will come back to me and be like, hey, you still interested, with the offer you made 2 months ago or whatever. And I'd be like, I'm still interested, but, now my capital's a little more tied up, maybe, labor has increased. So I'll try to get a few more, go a little lower than what my previous offer was.
Yeah. What other, I like that idea. What other negotiation techniques, strategies do you have for our listeners?
Yeah. I mean, so I would say one of my go-tos is, I actually learned this from you guys, is coming up with, not a random, but I guess a random number, right? So instead of, let's say the asking price is 500, instead of coming in and saying, I'll 450 or, whatever, I would go in and offer, 451, 360 or something like that. That kind of shows that I've really plugged my numbers. And this is, there's a reason I've arrived at that number. So I think a lot of times they'll take that offer more seriously and, not just think I threw 450 out there to try to lowball them. So that's one. I mean, I would say there's less negotiation on MLS deals. If you're negotiating directly with the seller, then I think you use more of trying to get what their motivation is. Okay, are they looking for the highest price, or is there other things I can offer that are more beneficial? So, just understanding what their why is. Maybe there's so much trash and debris in the house that if you just offer to take all, just say you can leave all your stuff, I'll take it. That might be worth, 50 grand to them right there. Or maybe they're just desperate for cash, and if you can close in 10 days, they don't even care what you pay. So when you're working directly with the seller, definitely just trying to understand what their pain points are and, how you can help them the most.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. I like that one about the exact offer. I've just found anytime you do that, they assume that there's a lot of thought and calculation behind it. Like he
Right.
either calculated how much he can pay for it, or he really studied the comps and did some complex price per square foot or something. It just looks more thoughtful, and I found more often than not they take it.
Right. Yeah. No, they definitely value it higher.
What other tips would you have for someone who's starting out or doing flips at the level you are? What do you think are some of the more important things from the the dozens now that you've done in just a short
Right.
time?
I definitely think you want to have some intense market knowledge. Really study what your local market is doing. Really drive down in those comps and see, okay, why are these houses selling higher than the others? Just for example, in DC, I have a house. It's in Northeast DC, but it's half a block away from North Capitol Street. So on the other side of North Capitol Street is Northwest DC, and just being in that opposite quadrant has almost a 6-figure effect on sales prices. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So the house I own is the exact same size, actually has bigger square footage, and it'll probably sell for about $1 million. And then a house literally 0.1 mile away on the other side of North Capitol Street just sold for I think they actually got it into the 1.2s. So in this scenario, over $200,000 difference just from being across North Capitol Street, which in my mind is outrageous, but that's what the market's telling me. So market knowledge, I think you can never have enough education. So, whether your method of education is podcasts and reading online or, finding a mentor or joining a coaching program, there's obviously multiple ways to get that education. Just make sure you're always learning and learning from people who are doing it, and not just these, gurus you can find online and you pay a couple $1,000s and be no better off.
Yeah,
And then,
a lot of the RIAs are like that now too, right? It's like guys who they're these big investor meetups and they've never really done a ton of deals, right?
right.
I'm sure you've come across some of those.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the guys who set up the RIAs, they do it because, for, maybe they want wholesalers to bring them more deals and think of them first, or just getting credibility to raise money. I mean, there's definitely benefits of hosting, your own meetup events, but it doesn't always mean that you have that you're done a bunch of deals and whatnot.
All right. Before we wrap up, I want to go through our hyper fast round, some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay, here we go.
All right. What is the biggest challenge you've had as a real estate investor, and how did you overcome it?
Oh man. I'm sure as soon as I say this, another big ass problem will pop up. So far, my biggest problem has been dealing with title issues. So it's a long story, but short of it is I bought a house that had title issues, and it took about 10 months to resolve. Actually, still dealing with it, still going in and out of court. But definitely make sure you buy title insurance.
Yeah. Did you have title insurance on it? I'm
I
sure you
did,
did,
thank
right?
God. I
Yeah.
did, yeah, thank God. So that the title insurance attorney took care of it, but it was basically 10 months of someone living in a house that I owned. I couldn't do any renovations to it, and 10 months of hold time plus legal fees. Really, really eats into your profit, obviously.
Yeah. What was your biggest deal, and how did you find it?
So my biggest deal so far has been the single family row home in Petworth that I mentioned earlier. The first deal I bought in DC, and that was actually brought to me by a wholesaler.
Yeah, and a lot. I like that was your most profitable, biggest deal, and it was a wholesaler, because a lot of people have this negative connotation about wholesalers, but really they're just bringing efficiency into the market, and
Right.
that guy made money, and you made a lot of money, so it's a win-win for everyone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think his assignment fee was 10 grand. Um, you know, I'm not, I don't have, I don't spend that much money on marketing. So I'm more than happy to pay someone, 10 grand to find me a great deal if they're going out there and doing the legwork.
Yeah, totally agree. What is the biggest mistake you think most people make when they're starting out?
The biggest mistake. Um, I think the biggest mistake people can get caught doing is overvaluing their property's ARV and kind of latching
Yeah.
onto a deal and trying to make the numbers work because they want to get the deal so bad. So you'll start overlooking things that okay, this comp sold for 500, but it has a garage and it has a deck, and I don't have a garage. I'm not going to build a deck, but mine's going to be special, and I think I can still get 500, which isn't the case. Those things have value. You have to be realistic and don't overestimate what you think your house is going to sell for.
Yeah, you got to know your numbers, and people suffer from thinking it's worth more. I don't know why everyone does that, but they do.
Right.
So know your numbers, know the market too, like you said
Absolutely.
earlier. Last one, what or where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years from now, I hope to keep growing my development business. So right now, I've hired a couple employees over the past 6 months. So I want to continue to build that out, and always, I think my bread and butter will always be, development in the DC area. So a mix of the single family row homes. I definitely want to get more involved with the condo deals as well. Bigger projects and bigger profits. And then the ultimate goal is, adding a cash flowing rental portfolio, building up, I've always said my goal is 100 grand of passive income a month from rental properties. So start working towards that.
Are you going to look in other markets for that, or just stick to the DMV area?
Yeah, I think as much as I would love for it to be the DMV area, everyone I've talked to about rental investing in our area sounds like it's a tough tough location. Not saying it's impossible, not saying there aren't good rental deals, but I think to scale it, I would have to look at some other markets as well.
Yeah, no, it's always a point to consider for the people like us that are getting these big hit flip kind of deals. It's like, okay, how do I get this into rental? Well, unless
Right.
unless you're unless you're gonna really scale, you might have to look into other markets.
Yeah, I mean, have you thought about picking up rentals in our area?
There's a couple of our projects we might end up refinancing at the end and making into to rentals, and we've
Uh-huh.
got an advantage there because we're doing the development piece of it.
Right.
But buying existing rentals in the DC market, you're gonna be at like a 4% cap rate
Right.
unless you gotta like do a lot of work to it. So um, it's just and the rents are so high at a 4% cap rate. You're usually at least like 500 grand a door,
Right.
and in some markets you're 50 grand a door. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Not the best market for it, but obviously opportunities out there.
but the good news is the DC market is resilient when it comes to recessions and uncertainty. And, so far from what I've heard from other markets across the US, it's holding up pretty well during the coronavirus. So,
Yeah, hopefully it stays that way.
yeah, well, we'll see, whether 2008-9 time period better than any other market. So, uh, we shall see. I know you've got a lot of projects. We do too. Plenty of margin on them though, so I'm quite confident that we're gonna deliver no
There you
matter
go.
what's going on, and I'm sure you are as well. Before we finish up, if people want to contact you or connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so best way is probably through social media. So I'm on my personal Instagram is at Chris Flipping DC on Instagram. The name of my company is Summit Realty Investment Group, at Summit Realty Investment Group on Instagram and Facebook. And then you can check out our website, www.summitrealtyinvestmentgroup.com.
All right, guys, connect with Chris. Thanks for being on the show, and for all you guys out there who tuned in, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and check out our other episodes. See you guys next time.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you want to see more videos like this, click right here. And if you want 10 tips from Sunil and I on how we've built wealth through real estate, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to the channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And let me know in the comments what you think about the videos. I read them weekly and I pick winners at random. And I give out stuff like hats, shirts, coaching calls with me, and tickets to some of our events. I'll see you next time.